Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Becoming Dangerous in Excel. So today's episode, we're going to be cleaning and filtering some data. You can see all the topics that we're going to be going over today. This episode is going to be particularly useful if you're constantly getting data. Maybe it's from like a CSV file. CSV is comma separated values. Or, if the data is just wonky, maybe there's some spaces that shouldn't be there, or capital letters that should be lowercase, or lowercase letters that should be capitalized, and a bunch of different other things that we're going to be going over today. So as always, if you know what portion of the video you really want to see, you can look in the description and in the comment section, and I'm going to have timestamps for all these different things so that you can see exactly where in the video we talk about these things, and you can jump to that portion of the video. Okay, so this is the data table that we're going to be working with today, and you can see some different things here, especially in the brand column here. We have the different types of brands of coffee that we're going to be going over, the flavors, the roast. I've used this table before in previous videos, so some of you may recognize it. But this is what we're going to be using to go over all of our topics. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is text to columns. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to be taking this text here and transferring it into different columns. So what we could do is we could say all the coffee, but that takes a long time, and Excel has ways where we can do this a whole lot quicker. And especially, if this is a huge data set where it's got, multiple different things in here, this is going to take a really long time to manually do that. But Excel makes it a whole lot easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the cell that we want to change into columns, and we're going to go to the Data tab, and right up here you can see Text to Columns. We're going to click on that. And then it gives us some information here, this little pop-up box. So we want to choose the file type that best describes our data. Right now, we have characters such as commas or tabs that separate each field. And you can see here, it gives us a little bit of a preview. We're going to go ahead and click Next. And right now, space is checked off. We don't want space because all of our values are separated by commas. So we're going to click on comma. And you can see how the data preview separates those values for us. We don't have to go any further than that. We can just press finish and it'll separate it for us. Let's go ahead and undo that, and we can see that we can do both of these at the same time. So if you've got a lot of different selections that are separated by commas or separated by the different values that are located here, maybe there's tabs or semicolons, but we have commas for right now, and you can see the data preview shows us that both of these will be separated for us. So we can press finish and see how quickly that breaks it down into columns for us. And just that one tip can save us so much time. So hopefully, if you didn't know that already and now you know it, hopefully that's saving you so much time in the different things that you're doing. But now we're going to go over into our different topics that we're talking about today. So the first one is trim, and trim works in a way that it takes away spaces that shouldn't be where they are. So Excel is pretty good at recognizing where spaces should and shouldn't be. So let's go ahead, and we can see from this first community coffee cell here, we do have a space that shouldn't be there. And what we could do is we could come in and just take them all out manually, but there's some, you see how we have more than one space here, and we don't want all of that, and it takes us a whole lot of time to go in here manually and do all of this. So what we can do is we can use the trim function. Trim, space, tab that out, and then we can highlight our entire selection to trim it up for us. So we can see that we no longer have these weird spaces in different spots, but our data is actually still not quite right. We've got some capital letters that shouldn't be capitalized, and also some lower case letters that need to be capitalized. So first we're going to make the corrections to our lowercase and uppercase letters that don't need to be the way that they are, just to show you how this function works. So the function that we're using to do this is the proper function. And you can see that proper function, it says converts a text string to the proper case. First letter in each word to uppercase and all other letters to lowercase. So keep that in mind whenever you're using the proper function. We're going to press tab to put that in there for us, and then we're going to include all of our data. And you can see that it does fix up those case values that, they were lowercase, now they're now they've been capitalized, and vice versa. So that's how that works. But you can see that it doesn't do both for us. It doesn't have, it still has the spaces here that we got rid of using the trim function. But the good thing about Excel is that we can nest different functions into each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to press equals, and then we're going to both trim, and we're going to use both the trim and the proper functions. So we can say trim the proper version of this selection. Oops, we need one more parentheses. Okay, and see how it does that for us. Now we've got all the correct spacing in here and the correct case for each of our different brands of coffee. But notice again, we talked about this in some of the previous videos, how these values aren't actually there. I mean, they are there, but they can change based off of what's in here as well. So if we get rid of that, then it changes our values. So we want these values to stay the way that they are. What we can do is we'll just come and copy this, and then we'll just paste the values into here. Now we've got all our correct spacing and the correct case for each of our different brands of coffee that we're going over. So that's a really quick and easy way to make corrections to some simple data errors like that. Okay, so next off, we're going to be talking about left, right, and mid. And I've used left a good bit of times, not really too much right and mid, so we're going to go over those two quickly, but left is the one that I've seen people use most often. So what it does is exactly that. It returns the specified number of characters starting from the left of a text string. So we'll put in left there, say community, and see our syntax here. Left, it's looking for the text. Our text is community coffee here. And how many characters do we want? Let's say we just want one of those characters. So it'll give us the C, the letter C here. Okay, now if we wanted, say, like 4 of those letters, it'll say the community. Well, like comms. So what I've seen people use this for is like creating item codes. So let's say we wanted a code for a community coffee. We have the C starting off, and what we can do is, this is just going to be me right quick just doing this, add and 1, and you can say we have C1 for our community coffee. We can drag these down, and you can see how, so now it says B1 for Black Rifle coffee and M1 for the Melaleuca coffee. So that's how I've seen people use that. You can use this in however way that you're, transforming your data to do different things. But the exact same thing happens for right and mid. So we can say right community coffee again, and let's say we want 7 of those characters, and it'll give us the coffee. So that's how you use that. Like I said, I don't use these very often. Left mostly, but if you're trying to get some information from the text and you don't want to go in here and manually do all that, then this is an easy way to do that. And same thing with mid. You select the text that you're looking for, the start number. Maybe you want to start, let's start at 1, and we want the number of characters to be 8 of those characters, parentheses, and it gives us that. Let's change this up a little bit just because I can show you that you can start in different areas as well. So say you want that starting at 4, but it still gives you the same amount of characters, the 8 characters in there. So that's how left, right, and mid work. I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory, and like I said, I don't use them a whole lot, but they do come in handy whenever you do need them. So next off, we're going to jump into the concat function. And what concat does, concat's pretty useful. I like to use it a good bit. So concat, it concatenates a list or range of text strings. And what that means is it just basically puts text strings together that aren't in the same column. So let's say we want community coffee, and So see that the syntax here is saying concat text 1, and then we want our comma in there, and then text 2. And what it's going to do is it's going to put those two text strings together for us. But notice how they actually don't have a space in between here. You have to manually go in and put that space in there. So we're going to put that as our space. And you can see now we have our space. And you can put, different things in here as well. If you want to put a dash in between those just to make it look better, you can put that dash in there. And that's a really easy way for us to put different strings together and have them in the same cell. And you can do this as many times as you want. So if I come in here and say I want another one, let's put another dash in here and have the medium dark, then that'll add all those together for me. Community coffee, house blend, medium dark roast, all together. So yeah, like I said, concat is pretty useful for whenever you're putting multiple text strings together from different columns. And they don't have to all be next to each other. In case you wanted to change that for whatever reason to maybe the H2, which is over here for the price sold, just to give you an idea of different things that you can do with it. You can, put whatever text strings that you want together and make it into however you want this to look. Okay, so now that we've talked about concat, let's go on to our next topic, which is transpose. And let's see what transpose looks like. So it converts a vertical range of cells into a horizontal range or vice versa. So let's tab that in. And let's say that, that we have this vertical range here of all of our brands of coffee. But let's say that we wanted those to be horizontal instead. What we can do is we can select this range, and then transpose will basically transpose those values into columns instead of all being in rows like this. Let's go back one, and we can do the same thing like Excel says. We can do vice versa. So we can do transpose, have this horizontal range, and we can change that into a vertical range. So those are really quick ways to change up tables and make things into vertical ranges that were horizontal and vice versa, like Excel says. Okay, let's undo that, and maybe we want to do this entire range here. So we can say transpose this entire table that we have, and it'll do exactly that for us. So it's got all of our information down here. And again, keep in mind that you see when we click inside of this table, these values aren't actually there. They're going to change based off of this. So if you want to use these values, you need to go and basically copy and paste just the values so that you can work with this data instead of having this data instead of having your data rely on this data table here. Okay, so that's a pretty good idea of how transpose works. Of course, some of these, the columns aren't wide enough to show all of the data, so you're going to have to go in and change those up. But it is a quick and easy way for us to change that data from vertical to horizontal and vice versa. So let's undo all that and get rid of that. And the next thing that we're going to be going over is unique. I particularly like the unique function. I use this a lot whenever I'm creating lists and things like that. So for me, this is a really useful function. So let's see what it says for us. It'll say unique, returns the unique values from a range or arrays. Let's tab that in. And let's say we want the different types of roasts. So we can see here that we have all these different types of roasts, but we only want one of each. Like we don't want to see multiple darks, multiple lights, that type of thing. Let's just say we want all of these, but it's going to give us only the unique values within this column. So that's a quick and easy way to get rid of the duplicates and see only the certain individual unique values that we have in this column. And like I said, I like to use this for creating lists. So let's go ahead and do that. we can go to the data validation up here, create our list, and our source is going to be our different rows. And now we have our different rows here. And then keep in mind, again, this is dependent, just like the rest of them. You can see here, these are dependent upon this table. So if we come in here and type in something like, let's say it's medium, it'll add that in for us. But it's actually, I don't know if it's actually part of our list still. Nope, our list needs to change to include $20. Now we have them all. Okay, so now we've got our list back to normal, and we can see the different things in here. Okay, so now that we've got that unique function figured out, let's go ahead and go on to the filter function. And we've gone over the filter function in previous videos. What we do is normally, what you can do is you can make this into a table, like how I normally like to do it. Or what you can do is you can come up to data, click on filter, and then you can filter by, whatever one that you really want. But let's say that we want this to be a completely different table, and we don't want to mess with any of this data that we're seeing here. So what we can do is we can use the filter function. We can say filter, and you can see here it says filter, arrange, or array. We're going to tab that out, and then the array that we're using is all of this data here. So we're going to select that data, and what we want to see is we want to include these rows, and we're going to use our list. We're going to say we want this to equal this. Okay, and then we can close that off, and you can see how our filter filters out everything that is the medium dark rows. And we can change this. So this is something that we haven't really seen too much dynamic stuff going on like this. But if we go to dark, it changes to show us only the dark rows. If we go to light, it changes only to show us the light rows. So this is pretty effective and quick. Like I said, whenever you don't want to really mess with your actual data table and want to create a new little table with your filter items, this is really quick and easy to do that. But also notice that our formatting didn't pull over. So like these here that are actually percentages, that formatting didn't show there, but we can go ahead and change that later as well. Let's just get rid of all of this for now. Okay. And let's go on to our last two functions, the upper and lower functions. So what do these do? These are pretty self-explanatory as well. Upper converts a text string into all uppercase letters. Let's say we do upper. We want this text string here. Now Maluka is all capitalized. You can see that it's still giving me my lists here, but we can go ahead and take that off. And to do that, you just come back into your data validation and change it from list to any value, and it'll get rid of that for you. Okay, so now now we see that Maluka is now capitalized instead because we use the upper function. And the same exact thing can happen with the lower function. We can change this to lower, and it'll change it to all lowercase letters. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. The only times I've seen this used really is for something like acronyms. Like let's say we have Black Rifle Coffee, and we want to change that to uppercase. That's a quick and easy way. Instead of going into here and typing out everything Black Rifle Coffee every single time, that gets really tiresome, and we don't like doing all of that. So that's a really simple way to use upper and lower. Like I said, you may have different instances where you want to use some things like this, but I'm just here showing y'all what these different functions can do so that you can use them in y'all everyday life and the data that y'all are working with. And so that concludes today's lesson. I hope y'all learned a lot today. We did go over some of these. Like I said, some of these are going to help out more than others. The text to columns is extremely helpful, as well as the trim and proper functions. Possibly left. CONCAT and transpose are really helpful, as well as unique and filter. Some of the other ones, not as much. You may use them here and there, but they definitely can save you a lot of time. So I hope y'all liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you use these different things in different ways. I'd love to know how y'all actually use them compared to how I use the functions. And I hope I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks.